Hey there, I am so genuinely glad you're joining me today. If you've been carrying around the heavy, exhausting weight of a busy mind, the kind that literally never seems to power down, I really want you to know you're in a safe clinical space right now. Okay, let's dive into this because today's explainer is designed entirely to validate you and your experience. We are going to look really closely at the hidden strengths of the deeply reflective mind. Have you ever laid in bed at night replaying the exact same conversation in your head over and over again? Or maybe someone sent you a dry text message and instantly your brain generated 10 entirely different meanings behind it. It's exhausting, isn't it? If you do this constantly, I can almost guarantee you've heard this exact phrase. You think too much. Just relax. Stop worrying. Right? It is so deeply isolating to constantly hear those words from people who, frankly, just don't get how your brain works. When your mind is naturally replaying every single interaction, or naturally imagining every mistake or worst-case scenario before making even the smallest decision, hearing you think too much feels like a complete dismissal of your reality. Most people call this overthinking, and they just see it as a massive burden. But what if I offered you a compassionate, clinical reframe today? What if everything you've been told is a flaw is actually a hidden strength? Psychology actually suggests that people who engage in what society stubbornly calls overthinking are usually far more emotionally aware, observant, and mentally deep than they even realize. Throughout this explainer, we're going to see that these exhausting mental habits, they aren't broken parts of you. They are actually signs of profound and surprisingly rare emotional intelligence. So let's start with section 1, the myth of overthinking and reimagining the loud mind. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it shows that society entirely misunderstands minds like yours. You see, society operates on this assumption that a brain's primary job is just to process information and move on. But your mind doesn't just process information, it actively searches for deep meaning. And when you're constantly searching for meaning, you're obviously going to look at the world differently than everyone else. We really need to rename your perceived anxiety into an accurate psychological reality. So instead of those heavy, common labels you've been burdened with, like overthinking and worrying, let's call it what it actually is: high emotional awareness. You aren't just creating problems out of thin air. Your mind is picking up on incredibly complex emotional data. It is high time we stop labeling your high awareness as mere worry. Which brings us to section 2. A bright lantern of awareness, illuminating the unseen. We're going to look at 2 hidden traits here. You notice tiny details that everyone else completely misses, and you care incredibly deeply about how those details affect others. I want you to think of your mind as a bright lantern. Your highly observant mind is definitely not broken. It acts exactly like this lantern, constantly scanning the room to illuminate subtle shifts in tone, energy, and expression during really complex social interactions. Have you ever walked into a room and instantly felt that something was off, even when absolutely nobody said a word? Yep, that is your bright lantern at work. Your mind naturally scans for patterns and emotional signals. Just think about the exact details your bright lantern catches: a delayed reply, a forced smile, a sudden, subtle shift in behavior, or a weird, energetic change. I know how exhausting it is because your brain connects these details nonstop. While other people just breeze past a weird interaction, your mind keeps investigating. But catching these tiny details, that makes you exceptionally emotionally intelligent. So-called overthinkers sense problems before anyone else does, simply because they're actually paying attention. I want to pause for just a second here. Think of a time your sensitivity helps someone feel seen. What did you notice? This ties into your second hidden trait. You care way more deeply than you admit. Your mind replays moments because relationships really matter to you. You overanalyze social situations because you genuinely don't want to hurt people. Your deep care and empathy have probably been an absolute lifeline to someone who felt invisible, precisely because you noticed what everyone else ignored. Let's step right into section 3, your instinct to protect and the shield of preparation. Let's move to and see how this builds. This brings us to a third hidden trait. Your mind is always preparing for danger. Often, overthinkers view this constant anticipation of worst-case scenarios as their absolute biggest burden, but we really need to reframe this. This isn't a flaw in your programming. It is a brilliant, adaptable survival response. Years ago, you might have experienced emotional stress, frequent criticism, or environments where you just had to be incredibly careful. Your brain learned that one mistake could lead to conflict or rejection, so months later it adapted. It started predicting what-if scenarios to keep you safe. What if this goes wrong? What if they leave? Fast forward to the present day, and this has developed into a state of high alertness and profound emotional maturity. You grew up in environments that trained your brain to protectively predict danger before it even happens. I really need you to hear this loud and clear. Your brain isn't trying to torture you, it is trying to protect you. The constant mental preparation creates anxiety, yeah, for sure, that's true. But it also forged your incredible emotional maturity. You learned early in life that paying attention was absolutely crucial. Some of your overthinking is quite literally your emotional survival instinct working exactly as it was designed to. You are safe now, and honestly, you can thank your brain for keeping guard. Now we reach Section 4, Deep Waters of Reflection and the Weight of Understanding. Here, we address the final two traits. You secretly think way more deeply than most people, and you probably feel lonely a lot more often than you show. Think of your mind as deep waters. While some people just skim through life on the surface, never questioning anything, rarely analyzing emotions, your mind dives deep. The deep waters are this profound internal space where human behavior, hidden intentions, and complex emotions are analyzed. A random conversation stays with you for hours because you're building incredible self-awareness. Research on reflective thinking shows that spending time mentally analyzing experiences helps you understand people and yourself on a level that surface dwellers literally cannot reach. But living in those deep waters brings a really specific kind of ache. You probably feel lonely more often than you show. A lot of highly reflective people feel deeply misunderstood. Your mind is entirely full of emotions and complex questions, but most people only ever see the quiet, outside version of you. It feels impossible to explain what's happening inside, so you just stay quiet. You carry these complex emotions entirely internally. You pretend things don't affect you. And you stay quiet because you want true understanding, not just passing attention. Take a deep breath and ask yourself this. When was the last time you felt truly understood without having to explain yourself? It is completely valid to crave someone who just gets how your mind works, someone who sees well beyond the surface. The loneliness you feel isn't because something is broken inside you. It happens because you process experiences so much more deeply than the people immediately around you. True connection really does exist for deep minds, and your desire for it is beautifully human. Which brings us to our final phase, Section 5, Embracing your hidden strengths and finding growth from within. Recognizing these traits is just the very first step. The next step is turning this profound self-awareness into a tool for a more grounded, peaceful life. Learning how to calm your thoughts is important, sure, but you must never make the mistake of believing your depth is a weakness. So the crucial point is how we move forward with these 3 steps. Step 1, recognize the loud mind as high empathy. When you start overanalyzing an interaction, remind yourself you're doing it because you care. Step 2, offer yourself grace for your protective instincts. When anxiety flares up, thank your brain for trying to protect you, but gently remind it that you're safe right now. And step 3, transform deep reflection into profound insight. Step back, observe your traits, and let your natural analysis become unmatched wisdom rather than just worry. Many people go their entire lives aggressively avoiding self-awareness. But you are practically forced to develop it. And actually, maybe that's exactly why you understand emotions, people, and life itself in ways others simply can't. The next time someone tells you that you think too much, I want you to remember this quote. Some minds are shallow and quiet. Others are deep and loud. Your deep, loud mind is definitely not a burden. It is your greatest hidden strength. Because deep minds, they often change the world. They're the ones who write the poetry, who notice the marginalized, who build the absolutely safest spaces for others. So I leave you with this final thought to carry with you today. How will you use the deep waters of your mind to change the world today? Be so proud of how beautifully complex your mind is. Embrace the depth. Thank you so much for joining me to explore this today. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you next time.